Stories like this are exactly why signs like this are printed, because polar bears actually do hunt humans. The video here that you guys just watched, I'm fairly sure is not real. It shows a man recording a polar bear. The camera recording this guy then zooms out, and we can see another polar bear that flanks him and attacks him from behind, knocking him down. Here is meant to represent the Christopher Best incident, in which he was attacked and mauled by two polar bears while in a remote location in. This is an incident that took place back in 2024, August, specifically on Brevard Island. Very remote. There are polar bears here, of course. It's in the Arctic. Christopher ran an amateur photography page where he took photos of wildlife, so he was very excited to take some images of these polar bears. While there, he was notified that a polar bear was outside of the radar station that he was at. However, he didn't realize that it was two polar bears. While taking photos of one of them, the other one came up, blocked his exit, and he was mauled right then and there, losing his life. I know this video might look pretty underwhelming, but trust me, once this timer hit 0, life for the people living around here changed forever. This TikTok video here that I got tagged in doesn't have too much context. We can see a timer here on the left-hand side of the screen, and once the timer hits 0, we can see in the distance here a couple of small explosions. At least, they look small. As previously mentioned, this might look pretty unspectacular, but what you guys just witnessed here from very far away is the Fukushima incident, the Fukushima nuclear disaster taking place. So many of you guys probably remember, or at the very least have heard about, the 2011 Japan tsunami. It was caused by a 9.0 magnitude earthquake, took the lives of thousands, and also resulted in a nuclear meltdown in Fukushima. This resulted directly in over 100,000 people being evacuated and displaced, as well as countless deaths.
Tell a friend.
Not gonna lie, I don't really understand what this video is meant to represent. Nonetheless, this is a very real case and a disturbing one. This video here has two sides. We first see a smiling image of a couple, Jody Arias and Travis, with the caption here, "I love him very much." The next image here shows just Jody in a court scene, and we can see "I loved him very much," emphasis on the past tense. For context, in June of 2008, Jody Arias took the life of her then boyfriend, Travis Alexander, while he was in the shower. This act here was driven by obsession, jealousy, and rage after he broke up with her and she could not handle the rejection. Their relationship was extremely tumultuous. She had stalked him multiple times while he was going out with other people. The method of taking his life was absolutely brutal, stabbing him 30 times, using a firearm, and also cutting down his throat. I've always been super tempted to download this app and actually try it out, but at the same time, I am a little bit too afraid to. I swear this app has been a topic of discussion for at least the past 5 years. This video that I got tagged in shows a group of police officers in the woods, and the caption here says, "When you download the Randonautica app and find a child's bloody clothes." For context, Randonautica is a very odd app that went viral a couple of years ago. People basically get random coordinates from this app, and it allows them to explore their area more in depth. What's weird about it, though, is a lot of people have reported very strange occurrences when they go to the actual locations that the app directs them to. Besides people discovering creepy things and posting it to TikTok, there have been very extreme finds on this app, including somebody's remains being found in a suitcase during an active investigation. So honestly, I'm not too surprised at this video here.
He is about to lose his entire right arm.
Ho ho ho!
I know you might be tempted to say, no, I would not feed this for $1 million, but to be honest with you guys, there's no risk here whatsoever. This is a video that I've recently seen go viral over the past couple of weeks on multiple different platforms. It shows this guy grinning, he's holding a dead small fish, he then places his arm inside of this tank, and we can see a massive behemoth come and swallow basically his entire arm. The type of fish that we're looking at here has been on Earth for a couple 100 million years, sturgeon. Now, despite the fact that these guys are quite large and they might look pretty intimidating, they're actually not that harmful. They feed via suction. They have this distended jaw that they release and grab their food with, which means they don't have teeth. So it grabbing his arm here is not really doing much to damage it. You might get a little bit of a bruise, but otherwise it's not going to be a big deal. So though these guys are very large, they can weigh hundreds and hundreds of pounds, so it can be quite scary to be around.
This might bite your toes on the beach.
Ho ho ho!
If you've been watching my content for a while, you've known about these beachworms, but guess what? There's a lot of people that still haven't, so here's your introduction. This viral TikTok video that I got tagged in had a lot of people freaked out. It shows this guy placing a dead fish right next to this worm. It looks pretty small at first, but he latches onto it and pulls it out of the sand, and we can see that it's at least 3 feet in length. A lot of people refer to these guys as Australian beachworms, but the official nomenclature here is Australoneuphis. These large segmented worms burrow themselves into the beach here, and whenever organic material washes up, they latch onto it and they feed on it. This is exactly why when you watch videos of people extracting these worms, they place dead fish right above their burrow so that they pull it up and then they can grab them. They can grow to be extremely large, 3 to 6 feet in length to be exact. And yes, if you were to stand directly on top of it, it might end up biting you, although it wouldn't really be life-threatening at all.
This
This is exactly why situational awareness is so important. This was an accident waiting to happen. The video that you guys just watched shows a woman entering a room in this hospital. We can see right here is a small lift for equipment, basically a small elevator. She sticks her head inside looking for the lift, but little does she know it's right above her and it's traveling down towards her head. This incident happened at the Doctor of Central Pawar Medical College located in India just a couple of days ago on April 27th. This 50-year-old employee by the name of Jyoti was working in the surgical department in the morning, and at about 9 a.m. she entered this room, looked down this freight elevator shaft, and promptly had the elevator land on top of her, which pinned her for several minutes before she was freed and resulted in her getting severe head and neck injuries that would eventually prove fatal. Hindsight is always 20/20 here, but this elevator does not look very safe, at least the setup, and also sticking your head in the shaft should not have been done. My condolences to Jyoti and her family. This is a terrible situation. When this happened, everybody was concerned, and rightfully so. Fortunately, though, this was not as bad as it could have been. This is another Impacto music video. Here we can see a pitcher throwing a ball. This batter hits it. It's a line drive right back up the middle. It actually makes contact with the pitcher, after which he can be seen with a peculiar look on his face and being taken off by medical professionals. Now, this is a pretty niche incident. This took place back in August of 2014. The pitcher here's name is Dan Jennings. While relief pitching, he was hit in the head by this line drive that was traveling at 101 miles per hour. This is extremely fast. With velocity like this, a baseball making contact with your head could easily cause a skull fracture, potentially internal bleeding, and in worst case scenarios, death. Dan did end up suffering a concussion here, but fortunately he was cleared from any real serious injury like a skull fracture. I feel like a lot of people probably do know who this guy is. One thing is for sure though, we all hope that this guy never gets out of prison. This is a very simple 2-image slideshow. The first image shows the exact same guy as a child though. Behind him is his sister. The second image shows him older, much more menacing, and in prison. The subject of this video here is Paris Lee Bennett, an absolutely sociopathic/psychopathic individual who, back in 2007, at the age of 13, took the life of his then 4-year-old sister. This was not a random spur-of-the-moment attack. This was done on purpose with the entire goal of ruining his mother's emotional state by taking away her daughter and inadvertently taking away her son that would now be spending time behind bars. Ultimately, Paris was sentenced to 40 years behind bars, and he is eligible for parole in February of 2027, less than a year away, which means if nothing else changes, he will at the very least be getting out of prison at the age of 53, which is terrifying.
I just gotta smack the shit out of you right now, right? Do it! No, he's saying right here.
There's absolutely no justification for doing this, and I think the justice system should really make an example out of what this guy did. The video here that you guys just watched shows a 14-year-old boy harassing a 15-year-old girl. She's trying to get by, he's not letting her do so. He then calls him the P word, walks around a car, and the 14-year-old boy picks her up and body slams her down to the ground before stomping on her head. This situation here happened roughly 1 week ago in East Harlem, New York. This 14-year-old boy was allegedly trying to get this girl's number. She declined, which is why he allegedly did this. The unnamed boy was arrested and charged with assault, of course, and he's still being held as far as I can tell. Oddly enough, his mother, a woman by the name of Selma, is staunchly defending him, stating that he's actually the one that's been bullied, which still does not justify this, because the 15-year-old girl could have easily died from this. Fortunately, she did not, and she is making a recovery.
This is called a sleep mic.
I am so glad you did not attack it.
Ho ho ho!
Two things. Number one, that is not a skinwalker, and number two, I'm glad that you didn't try to go out of your way to harm this perceived skinwalker. This is initially a creepy TikTok video that I got tagged in. It shows this creature walking in the distance. It's dark around, so it's kind of hard to tell what it is. We can see that it kind of looks like a dog. Something is off though, and a mention of this being a skinwalker. Good news here, it's not a skinwalker. Instead, it is an actual dog, and it's a dog with a certain deformity known as short spine syndrome. This is the result of incomplete vertebral development, which leads to dogs looking like they have a very compressed spine, no neck, and usually results in a lack of mobility. Fortunately, dogs with this condition can live long, happy, and normal lives. Of course, there's a little bit of extra care that you have to put in, like elevated feeding, for example, and checking to make sure that internal organs are not being compressed, but it's just a dog at the end of the day.
I am
As time goes on, it does appear as though things are only getting more and more dystopian. This is a perfect example. This video here features multiple images showing what appears to be an idyllic lifestyle. We can see a family here smiling, these copy and paste homes that people live in, and robots, which kind of paints a futuristic-like society. A lot of people were drawing parallels between The Giver, a book about a utopian society with a lot of dirty secrets, and the current trajectory that we are on, and while this is probably a little bit of an over-exaggeration, I do see where people are coming from. As our society grows more and more, we're breaking away from unique individual-styled homes, and we're going with these cookie-cutter houses for the sake of cheapness and effectiveness. And while I do think this is kind of boring and dystopian, I really don't think that our intention here is to go towards a utopia. Let's be real, that's never going to happen. It's impossible to have a perfect society here, like this video would suggest, though I will say surveillance is starting to get a little bit out of hand. Taking the life of your child is an unthinkable thing to do, and the reason why this man did this is even more shocking. This is a topic that we've covered quite a while ago, but it's recently been going viral on TikTok again. It first shows an image of a man wearing a bra. It's an unflattering photo. And the caption here says, POV, confronting your father about disturbing images you found of him and being found dead days later. This TikTok is referring to the Dylan and Mark Redwine case, in which Dylan was picked up in November of 2012, and then he went missing. His dad never returned him. His dad was pleading on the news, begging for him to be returned safely, when all along he was the one that took his son's life. Reason being, his son Dylan had shown him these photos that he found of his dad where he was cross-dressing and handling human waste in a very gross fashion. Dylan's remains were not found later until 2013, and his head was found in 2015, 2 miles away. And Mark wasn't convicted until 2021, where he was sentenced to 48 years behind bars. Fortunately, this story did not actually happen, though I will concede worse has happened throughout history. If you've never heard of this story, this video likely didn't make sense. It says, rare aesthetic, having a village gathering, and pulling a slip with a single black dot. We then get some photos that go along with this caption here, and a bunch of stones are featured in the photos as well. Now, what this video is referring to is a fictional story that was written back in the 1940s known as The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. This story talks about a small American town in which everything is normal except for one day a year where everyone gathers together and pulls out a piece of paper at random, kind of like a raffle. One of the papers has a small dot on it, and if you're the unlucky person that pulls this, you basically get stoned to death. People just throw rocks at you. The story is meant to represent the dark side of following tradition and how society can be very cruel. There's a lot of potential for that.
I have done.
now only dogs will follow me.
Unfortunately, this slideshow did go viral, so now there's no doubt people that think this guy is an actual murderer. That's just not true. This slideshow that I got tagged in features multiple images of high-profile wrestlers as well as their wins, losses, and draws. First 4 slides are pretty vanilla and plain, but once we get to the final slide, we get an image of Andre the Giant, and at the bottom here we also have kills 24. For those of you that have watched my previous videos about Andre the Giant, you'll know that despite the fact he looks quite intimidating, he was oftentimes considered to be a gentle giant. He was over 7 feet tall, weighing over 500 pounds. Despite this though, he never actually killed anybody in the ring, as this slideshow would lead you to believe. No wrestlers have intentionally killed anyone in the ring, let alone 24. This would constitute as murder. A lot of these deaths that have been in the ring are accidental. So there's really no reason to demonize Andre. Holistically, he was a good and ordinary person.
No. This man must have a death wish.
Ho ho ho!
I swear, bro, people are just trying to invent new ways to lose your lives. I've never seen anything like this. This is a video that I actually scrolled across on Instagram myself. It shows this guy apprehensively sitting down in a hammock. It becomes immediately clear why he was so apprehensive when this dead tree ends up flying down towards his head, actually makes contact with him, and he then crawls up the slope here, obviously shaken up. Now, hammocking is something that's been blowing up in popularity, at least for the past 5 years. People will pack up their hammocks, go out into the woods, and hang it up wherever they want to get that nature-like vibe. It's worth noting though, in nature, you're never supposed to hang out underneath a dead tree because these have widowmakers, which famously kill people. So it goes without saying, hooking a hammock up and applying hundreds of pounds of force to a dead tree is potentially going to be deadly. This guy is lucky to be alive. This straight up looks like something that a writer from Final Destination would come up with.
This man.
This guy looks pretty brave, right? You want to know what happens right after this? He straight up falls right back into this tree and he's tearing his pants off. This is a shocking TikTok video that I got tagged in. It shows this guy, he's got a hand filled with what appear to be fire ants. He then places it right down his pants, and for a few seconds he looks completely fine. He's acting stoic. Didn't last too long though. Now, the ants that were in this guy's hand were red, which is consistent with the appearance of fire ants, of which between 500 to 1,000 stings could potentially be fatal for a fully grown adult male. There appeared to be at least 500 ants in the handful that he placed down his pants, which leads me to believe that maybe these aren't fire ants. Hopefully there's something a little bit less painful or deadly. It also would appear that this is something this guy has done multiple times, which is even more insane. Even if these aren't fire ants, this is still a crazy thing to do for TikTok or Instagram views.
I'm sorry. You need to throw this away now.
Ho ho ho!
There have definitely been some weird videos being posted to TikTok over the past couple of days, and this is one of these little mini-series. This TikTok video that I got tagged in states, reborn baby growing hair on its own. Update, we can see this small baby doll. The hair is obviously quite short, and the person that posted this claims that the baby doll's hair is growing. Now, first off, you might be tempted to think that this is one of those vintage Chrissy dolls. These are actually designed to grow hair. You pretty much just push a button on its stomach, the hair will grow out, and then you can also retract it back in depending on the hairstyle you want. As you can see though, neither of these dolls look the same, and this person even recorded the doll on time-lapse and reportedly caught it moving. Now, I just want to say, I don't actually think that this doll is alive or cursed. Instead, I think that there's some sort of logical explanation. Potentially the plastic on the head is shrinking, which makes it look like the hair is growing out, or maybe the hair was accidentally pulled out in some way.
When you find out that
Nobody is brave enough to spend the night.
Ho ho ho!
Look, I think regardless of whether or not these shrouded figures were in here, this place would be haunted. So no, I'm not spending the night in here. This is a creepy, no-context TikTok video that I got tagged in. This person is recording pews in a church. You can see these white shrouded figures. They look like ghosts, and yeah, this does not look like a very conducive place for actual worship. After doing some research, I found out that the church recorded in this video is a very real one from the 14th century, St. George's Church, located in Lukova, Czech Republic. As previously mentioned, this church is from the 14th century, so it's hundreds of years old. It's been abandoned since that time, but in 2012, an artist by the name of Jakub Hadraba put these figures in here, which led to people referring to this as the ghost church, which is very fitting because these shrouded figures are meant to represent the German ghosts of individuals that used to attend the church.
Your atoms align in just the perfect way, there's an extremely low chance you could phase right through it like a ghost.
For the longest time, people have believed that this is possible, even though it's an extremely small chance. But is it really? This TikTok video that I got tagged in talks about how if your atoms are perfectly aligned with another object's atoms, that there's a low chance that you could potentially phase through it, and it shows a guy falling through the ground. But this really is not that possible. This has been a trend for quite a while on TikTok, people posting videos about atoms perfectly aligning, but I can tell you right now confidently, any video claiming to show this is just straight up lying or joking. In theory, this idea could make sense. Atoms, specifically the particles in the center here, protons and neutrons, are extremely small in the grand scale of things, but this doesn't really work because electrons, which are on the outside, are negative, and negative forces repel each other. So even if your atoms are perfectly aligned, that electron repulsion is going to prevent you from actually phasing through any object.
Your atoms
That winning field.
If the pirates catch them, they are done for.
Ho, ho, ho!
Good news, I truly don't think you have anything to worry about. These are more than likely not pirates. This is a super viral TikTok video that I got tagged in. These people are on a boat traveling pretty quickly. In the distance, we can see what appears to be an older ship with a very simple caption, pirates. First off, right out the gate, pirates were not the only group to use these old school sailing ships, obviously, so assuming that it's automatically pirates doesn't really make sense. Second though, as I've talked about many times, pirates do actually exist, although they're not going to be going around in one of these sailing ships. Many modern pirates have these smaller boats that allow them to get up close and personal with larger vessels and board them more easily, and you're not really going to see people walking around with eye patches and wooden pegs for legs. You're usually going to be looking at smaller, more unassuming vessels. They're certainly not going to be telegraphing that they're pirates. They're not going to be flying the Jolly Roger. This is what you're looking at nowadays.
If the
So my eyes are blue, right?
Yeah,
Just a couple more seconds.
my eyes turn brown in the sunlight.
Gotta say, I've never seen anything like this naturally happen before. If I had to guess, this is not really her eye. This video is very simple to understand. It shows a woman inside. We can see that her eyes are both the same color. She goes outside, covers one eye, leaves one eye open to be exposed to the sunlight. She then goes back inside and we can see that her irises are two different colors. Now, there are lots of people out there that claim that their eyes naturally change color, especially with their emotional state. Usually it's people with hazel eyes where there is kind of a noticeable difference depending on the type of lighting that you're in. But this is certainly not that. Immediately, the first thing that came to mind for me was photochromic lenses. These are like the type of glasses you see where they're clear inside, when you go outside they turn into sunglasses. And as it turns out, they actually do have contact lenses that do the exact same thing. As you guys can see from this thumbnail, it can be quite jarring, the difference here. So that's what I would assume this is, a contact lens.
So my eyes are blue, right?
Genuinely not an exaggeration, by the way. This is exactly what happened. This is another creepy TikTok video that I got tagged in. It shows two images of the same couple, and the caption here is pretty wild. It says, POV, you marry the same man who threw acid in your face. Believe it or not, this is true. This case took place back in 2019 when a young woman by the name of Berfine was attacked by her then boyfriend, Kasim, after he threw some sulfuric acid in her face when she threatened to break up with him. This left a lasting impact on Berfine's appearance, as well as made her blind in one eye. Of course, Kasim went to prison, and while in prison he wrote multiple letters to Berfine, who eventually ended up forgiving him and in 2021 ended up marrying him. Of course, many people were absolutely shocked by this decision, considering the two's past. And personally, I don't think I could ever forgive somebody for doing something like this, but they are adults and they can make their own choice.